Hi everyone, time for another Pilates workout. Today I am going to be using a ball for the workout. So this is, I believe, a 10-inch ball. Kind of anywhere between like an 8 to 12-inch ball should work for this just fine. We're going to start on the mat. Take that ball, lift your hips up and find the ball in the middle of your sacrum. So that's that bony triangle, kind of right in the center of your upper butt. Feet are on the mat. And just start to breathe in and out at your own pace. So this ball is a little unstable, but it's also going to help you really feel the movement of your pelvis as we get ready to do some pelvic tilts. As you breathe out, think of tilting your pubic bone up towards the ceiling. And as you breathe in, think of reaching your tailbone towards your heels, stretching it away from your top of your head. You can see I've got my hands on my pelvis. It's also to help you see what I'm doing, but you can do that yourself if it helps. Heels of the hands are on the front of those hip bones, and my fingertips are together on my pubic bone. Then let's find kind of our neutral pelvis, where your tailbone feels kind of heavy on the ball, reaching towards your heels. And you're trying to keep your hip bones level as you lift one leg up to tabletop. Set it all the way back down before the other leg lifts up to tabletop. For a little more challenge, you can reach your arms up to the sky like I did. And if that just feels way too unsteady, keep your arms down on the mat. Once you're even on both sides, both legs up to tabletop, go back to those little pelvic tilts that we did before. And this is all designed to help you really find those deep abs. So focus on feeling your pelvic floor activate, those muscles at the very bottom of your pelvis. They are the same muscles that keep you from going to the bathroom. You want to just lightly activate them here. So if you're not sure what that means, squeeze them as hard as you can. Relax them, and then don't do that again. You just want to activate about roughly 25% of that maximum contraction. All right, now again, finding your neutral pelvis, lowering one leg towards the mat, lift it all the way back up to tabletop, and then the other leg. Now I'm flexing my feet. It just allows you to go a little bit further. If you point your feet, it means you just won't lower your leg as far. For a little more challenge, try taking both legs at the same time. Now the most important thing here is that your pelvis and low back are stable. So if they're moving a lot, your legs are going a little too far, or it's better to go back to one leg at a time or keep your hands on the mat. We also want to keep the neck as relaxed as possible. So feel your head sinking really heavy into the mat, shoulders are anchored down on the mat. We also want to feel that deep core transversus abdominis. So that's the muscle that wraps all the way around your waist from your rib to your hip. Feels like you're tightening up a wide belt when you're activating it correctly. Now let's release those hip flexors for a moment. Hug one knee in towards your chest, straighten the other leg all the way out, and imagine it growing a little bit longer. And I'm hovering mine off the mat. It's going to strengthen that hip flexor in a really long, lengthened position. Should feel nice. You want to keep your low back almost straight there to protect it. Now let's do that same movement with some strengthening focus. So from tabletop, one leg straightens, and then the other leg straightens. And again, the number one goal is more about your abdominals here, helping stabilize through your pelvis and low back. For a little more challenge, try both legs straightening at the same time. Another way to check if that deep transversus abdominis is active is if your abdominals are staying pretty flat. So if they're popping out almost like a loaf of bread, maybe take a moment, relax, see if you can reconnect with those deep abs. Maybe move a little bit slower. And then reach both legs up to the sky and find some external rotation. and then back to parallel. See if your entire kneecap is rotating sideways. If it's not, you might only be moving your foot or ankle. So your entire leg is rotating from in the hip socket. And then keep that external rotation. Start to lower both legs down and then lift them back up. And the lower you go, the more challenging it becomes for your abdominals. All the same goals. So if your pelvis is really wobbly, if it's tilting, if your low back is arching, if your abs are pushing out, you're just going a little too far. And remember that elbows on the mat or your entire arm on the mat is a great option to help you as you're building up strength and stability. And then let's take a quick release. Like a frog, bend both knees, and then stretch one leg open to the side. Bend that knee and stretch the other leg open to the side. And I like to move through my feet and ankle a little bit. It just helps release that lower leg and any tension in the foot. And then we'll set both feet on the mat. Think of your feet being just as wide as your hips, and we'll do a little bridge here. So think of that pubic bone reaching up to the sky. Engage your glutes right where that little smile line is at the bottom of your butt and the top of your back of your thigh. And I am barely lifting off of the ball. So depending on the size of your ball, you might not even lift your butt all the way off of it, but you should feel the back of your hip and butt activate, taking as much weight of your body weight off the ball as possible. Now the next time you lift your hips up, hold them there. Lift one leg up to tabletop, and then the other leg up to tabletop. Your number one goal here, just like we were doing with those abs, is keeping your hip bones at the same height. So you're trying to stabilize your pelvis as you lift one leg up. Once you're even on both sides, reach one leg straight up to the sky, and then slowly lower it down and lift it up. Now, the lower you go, the more challenging it gets. So still the most important thing is stabilizing your pelvis, keeping your low back really steady. Go for about 5 or 6 reps and then switch sides. So I've got my hands on my own hips to kind of monitor. Am I keeping it steady? Do both sides of my waist feel about the same length? Can I feel that activation at that little butt crease where my low butt meets my high hamstring? Let's do some little pelvic tilts. Check in that that pubic bone is still reaching up to the sky, and then both heels lift up and both heels lower down. For that extra challenge, arms can reach up to the sky. And to really work some coordination, can you open your arms as you lift your heels, close your arms as you lower your heels? If that is too distracting, leave the arm workout. Can you keep your heels up, and then everybody try adding those arms opening and closing? You can also do this with your heels down if that's a little too much for today. Now really working the coordination. As you lift one leg to tabletop, the opposite arm reaches overhead, and the same arm reaches down by the leg at tabletop. Goal here is to steady the entire torso as you work those opposite sides of the body. And for even more challenge, try to do this with both heels off the mat. Keep checking in that you're still reaching that pubic bone up to the sky, trying to keep your butt lifted off the ball as much as you possibly can. And then a little stretch, hug both knees into your chest. Let's find tabletop again. Now we're going to really work those lower abdominals. So think of curling your tailbone towards the sky. Draw your lower abdominals in so much that the space from your hip bone towards your bottom rib starts to grow a little closer together. To take this even further, I'm reaching my hands to just steady the ball, and I'm going to try to curl off the ball. My knees are still bent. That's going to help my pelvis roll off the ball. And I'm just holding the ball so it doesn't roll away from me, basically. When you're ready, roll all the way over and straighten your legs out. So you're balancing on your shoulders. Open your legs to about shoulder distance. Try flexing your feet as you slowly roll back down until your hips are on the ball. For more challenge, you're going to lower your legs away from you before you bring them back together and do the whole thing again. Legs lift up. Scoop your lower abdominals so much that you roll all the way onto your shoulders. And if this is not feeling good for your back today, go back to where we started, focusing on just the low abs up towards the bottom rib. That's still going to be a great way to strengthen your abs. We do want to also check that we don't roll up so high that you have all the weight on your neck. So be sure you can still swallow, you can still breathe. You have a little bit of space from your chin to your chest each time you roll over. Once you've done that about 4 to 5 times, hug your knees into your chest, and then we're going to lift your hips off the ball, grab that ball in your hands, feet go onto the mat, arms reach up to the sky, and let's do some little abdominal crunches here. So reach the ball towards your thighs, start from the top of your head, curl your chin towards your chest, and try to roll up to the bottom of the shoulder blades. You're trying not to move the lower half of your torso. So as you curl up, take a peek at that pubic bone again. If it's tilting up to the sky, you've lost the stability in that lower part of your torso. So think waist down to the tailbone, doesn't move at all. You'll feel your abs even more that way. Now bring one leg up to tabletop, the other leg up to tabletop. Let's isolate your shoulder blades. So reach the ball up to the sky, spread your shoulder blades apart, and then slide your shoulder blades back towards the mat. Feel your chest widen while keeping the front of the ribs closed. Now adding a little rotation through the shoulder. So kind of like a steering wheel, you're going to turn one hand on top and one hand on the bottom of the ball. Elbows are still straight. Chest is still wide. That's going to warm up the internal and external rotators of the shoulder. Once you're even on both sides, bend your elbows, bring that ball to your chest. Let's add some rotation in our sit-ups. Reach that ball past your opposite thigh, thinking rib curling towards the opposite hip as you lift your head and shoulders off the mat. You're trying not to move that lower body at all, which can be really challenging. Keep breathing. I like to exhale as I curl up and inhale as I roll down, but either way is okay. Let's add your legs. So curling straight through the center, straighten the legs out, kind of almost rolling that ball along your thighs, gently pressing into the thigh at the first. And then let's hold those legs out, going back to that steering wheel pattern. Breathing. Pressing into that ball is going to activate your arm and shoulder muscles even more, so it's a little easier if you're just touching the ball, a little harder if you're kind of squeezing the ball. You can even grab the ball to work all your grip and strength muscles, which can be really helpful. Anytime you grab anything, you need that strength. All right, let's come back to tabletop. Arms reach all the way overhead with the ball. We're going to do a little combination here. So you've got to sit up, put the ball in between your knees, lower your head and chest, and then straighten your legs out. The next time you curl up, you grab the ball and reach it back over your head. So one time the ball is in between your legs, the next time it's in your hands. Always good to challenge the coordination. It's so great for your brain and the connection with your muscles. That's that neuromuscular system. Now the next time you curl up, take the ball in between your ankles, curl the head and chest off the mat, arms reach by your sides. Let's try that same thing we did with your arms, but using your legs now. So one leg rotates on top of the other. You're trying to hold that ball as you switch to the other side. Try about 3 or 4 in each direction and then take a little break, bend your knees in, grab that ball, shake out your legs, take a quick rest. When you're ready, that ball is going to go back in between your ankles, legs straight up to the sky. We're going to try that rollover that we did before. Curling your pelvis off the mat. Find those lower abdominals and reach your feet overhead till you're balancing on your shoulder blades. Now try to rotate one foot on top of the other. Keep it there as you roll all the way down. And then you'll switch as you lower the legs away from you. Keep that as you roll all the way up. Now, if you're finding it more difficult to roll over, it is more difficult in this position. We had the ball under our pelvis before, which was actually kind of giving you a head start, right? Your hips were already off the mat. Now you're having to do the entire range of motion by yourself. So if this is not working for you today, it's okay. Try not to be hard on yourself. You can try it with knees bent. You can start with that smaller range of motion where we're curling just through the pelvis and the low back. And if at any point you're feeling pain, it's much better to go back to that smaller range of motion. You want to find where you're not having any pain. That's your body definitely telling you, hey, this is not good for us today. We want to listen to that. Also good to know that your arms are helping you here, yeah? So you're definitely pressing into the mat a little bit while still keeping your head and shoulders really anchored on the floor. If you start to feel your neck really tensing up, see if you can take a quick break, maybe roll out your shoulders, reconnect to those deep abdominals, and that should help you use your neck a little bit less. Once you're even on both sides, we get another break. Hug those knees into your chest, grab your ball. All right, let's get off your back. We're gonna roll onto your side and work your oblique abdominals. So we want that ball around your waistline. Both knees are bent. Lay all the way down, support your head with your bottom arm. Your bottom arm can be bent, it can be straight, really whatever feels better for your neck. And then straightening the top leg out, we're going to work your side glutes a little bit first. So reach that leg long as you lift it up and then lower it back down. Now I'm adding a little bit of ankle work, but you can leave that out if you like. You can point the foot as you lift and flex the foot as you lower. It's great to mobilize and strengthen those ankles, the lower leg muscles, and your feet. Now the next time you lift your leg at about hip height, keep it there and start to draw small circles, reaching back, up, forward, and down, about 5 in each direction. Your goal is to steady through the torso as you move your leg. This gets really challenging when you lay on your side. Low abs are going to help, so remember that pelvic floor activation, closing the front of the ribs. Now kick that leg forward, flex your foot, and then just lower and lift there. Should start to feel the side of the butt here a lot. And just check in that you're trying to lengthen the top side of your waist, so that space from rib to hip is staying really long. Bring that leg right back in line with the rest of your body. Go ahead and lower your foot down to the mat. And it's time to work those obliques. So top arm is going to just cross in front of your chest. Bottom arm needs to lengthen all the way out here. And I'm going to show another option with the arms by crossing both of them in front of your chest. So either way is okay. You notice I adjusted the ball a little bit. You want to be sure that it's not pressing into your ribs or causing any pain. So feel free to move it up or down a little bit until you find the right spot for you. So now we are shortening that distance from your bottom rib to the top of the hip. That's where your external and internal obliques lie, and we're strengthening them here. Or even more challenged, try it with both arms reaching all the way overhead. My movement gets a little bit smaller as that gets more challenging. So that's really normal. And let's try to speed it up, little pulses up an inch and down an inch. Little less challenging, bottom arm wraps around the waist, top arm overhead. So there's lots of options with your arms to increase or decrease the challenge for those abs. We're going to add a little twist here. So turn your shoulders toward the ceiling as much as you can without falling off that ball, and reach for that top foot. Again, this is a pretty small movement. Don't expect it to be huge. If it's bothering your neck, try hand behind the head to let your head rest into your hand. Know that that's actually more challenging for your abdominals as well, but it gives your neck some support. For extra challenge in the lower body, lift your leg off the mat. And then enjoy a nice release. Reach your top leg straight, both arms overhead. Feel that length through the entire side body. A few deep breaths. We'll add a little rotation here. So you want to end up with the ball almost right in the center of your chest. Turn your shoulders towards the floor. Hands on the mat with your elbows bent. And think about your arms and your top leg reaching in opposite directions. Should feel a nice release through the low back. We're going to stay in this position and do some work now. So bend your elbows if you straighten them out. Hands outside your shoulders. Start to reach the top of the head away from the tailbone. Open the chest. Use your arms a little bit. Upper back is doing most of the work as you lift your head and chest away from the floor. Check in that you're really drawing your abdominals in to support your low back. Once we've got that feeling of extending the upper back, we're going to hold that position. So come up so that you're resting on your elbows. Keep lifting that chest up and work the lower body. Leg is going to lift up and lower down. The tendency here is to let your abs kind of droop into the ball. Your ribs will start to sink down towards the mat. So you're really actively pulling your abs in, pressing your arms into the mat, lifting your ribs up to the sky. Let's pulse that back leg. Should be feeling your gluteus maximus here, that most powerful, biggest glute muscle. All right, now it's kind of difficult to see what I did. I just straightened out my other leg. So both legs are now straight. They're kind of crossed. And I'm going to go into a swan here, a twisted swan. So listen to your own body. If you feel any back pain, you want to keep it smaller. If you're feeling good, once you lift up to that bottom rib, go a little further, straighten your elbows out, press into the floor. Abdominals draw in even more deeply as you press up as far as your body allows today. Now, the longer I do this, I start to feel a really strong connection in my bottom inner thigh. Now, lower back down, so you're almost in a straight line from your head to your toes, and try to lift both legs off the mat. This one is really challenging for me. That bottom leg is barely lifting and lowering, but it really works the inner thighs. All right, now bending that bottom leg, let's go back into our swan, lifting all the way up, elbows as straight as possible. It's okay if they're a little bit bent. We're going to dive forward, thinking of lifting your thigh even higher to initiate that dive forward as your elbows bend. Your goal is to keep your chest away from the mat the entire time. So you're maintaining a nice curve from the top of your head to the back of your toe the entire time. It's a lot of endurance for every single muscle on the back side of your body. And then let's square off to the side wall. Take a nice big side stretch over that ball. We're going to work your triceps here. So now the top arm crosses in front. Place your hand on the mat. Bottom arm wraps around your waist. Start to press that bottom hand into the mat and lift up as much as you can, straightening your elbow as much as possible. And it's okay if this is smaller. It's all right if you don't straighten the arm all the way. We're going to do about 10 reps. Keep on breathing. And then take that nice big side stretch again. All right, pressing all the way up, we get a mermaid stretch, top knee bends, reach up and over, grab your leg for support, and now try to twist towards that top leg. A little bit of a swan action here too. So we lift the chest, look up towards the ceiling, and then round through the back. Think of scooping your lower abdominals in. Do that a couple times. And then using your ball, we'll do a side stretch the other way. So that ball adds instability here. You want to kind of roll the ball away until your forearm is on it and then press into the ball as you return back up. This actually makes me really feel my triceps into that latissimus dorsi muscle down the side of the back, but should also feel really nice. All right, a few times there. Let's work those abdominals again. So this time we're going to place the ball about the middle of your back. Think right around the bottom of your shoulder blades. You want to be able to get your butt all the way down on the mat. Feet on the mat about hip distance apart. Support your head in your hands and slowly stretch back over the ball. And then curl your chin towards your chest first as you roll up into that little sit-up. So feel free to adjust the ball as needed here. You're trying to be able to arch your upper back up and over that ball to get some upper back extension. And then you want to just curl up to about the bottom of your shoulder blades. Kind of check in that your elbows are always in your side vision. It actually helps your abs work a little bit more efficiently. And it supports your neck, helps it relax a little bit better. See if you can feel your abdominals pulling in every time you stretch back over that ball. And let's make this a little bit smaller, almost like a pulse. So now we just lengthen halfway back, think straight line head to tailbone, and then try to curl up. Feel the back side of your ribs actually pushing into that ball like they want to push it away. Keep that breath moving through your body. And then let's hold that curl up, just like we did in our warm-up. One leg up to tabletop. Set it all the way down before lifting the other leg up. And you're kind of checking in with your pubic bone again. You're steadying that pelvis. You can see it in this position. Once you're even on both sides, both legs up to tabletop, and let's pulse. Think rib towards hip. Head heavy in the hands, almost like you want to try to make a double chin. Now hold that curl up. Let's add a twist one way and then the other way. And this is really unstable being on the ball. So know that that wobble might make your twist a little smaller than usual. That's normal. See if you can speed it up. If the answer is no, keep it slow. That's okay. Speeding up tends to make things a lot more unstable, and we're already on an unstable ball. It's a lot of challenge. Once you're even on both sides, both feet down, enjoy a nice big stretch back over the ball, and then curl right back up through the center and hold. We're going to do a side bend here. So think rib towards the same hip. You're trying to now curve the side of your body just like we did earlier when you were laying on your side. Feels really different here. Keep breathing. And you're again trying to keep your hips as level with each other as possible, isolating this movement from the waist up to the top of your head. Once you're even on both sides, one more big stretch back. That's your break. Curl back up and hold. Now bend one way, stretch back over the ball, side bend the other way, and then curl up through the center of the chest. Do that again. You're basically drawing a big circle through the top of the head, down to the bottom rib, Working your oblique abdominals a lot here. We're going to do about 4 to 5 in the same direction, and then we'll switch sides. See if you can keep that lower half of your body totally steady from your waist down to your toes. And again, every time you stretch backwards over that ball, can you draw your abdominals in so that they never totally relax? They're working this entire time. Big stretch back. Straighten your legs, arms reach overhead. If that doesn't feel good for your neck, keep your hands behind your head for support. Now arms reach up to the sky, curl your chin to your chest. Let's roll all the way up off the ball, fold forward over your legs. Tuck your tailbone, draw your low abs in, slowly roll all the way back onto that ball, and arms reach overhead. It's a little bit easier to start with your arms first, a little more challenging if your arms stay closer to your ears, but I really want you to pay attention to how your neck feels when you do that. If you ever start to feel your neck more than your abs, you've chosen a little bit too much challenge. Always want to feel your abs more than your neck. For a little more challenge, can you lift one leg off the mat each time you roll up? To feel your abs more than your hip flexors here, focus on your upper body first before you start to lift that leg. So notice that I can at least see my legs before I lift them up. They should not be the first thing to lift in this one. At the top, think arms up to the sky, lift your chest, and then really scoop your abs so your whole back will round again as you roll back down onto the ball. Let's see if we can do a full teaser here. So both legs lift up, arms reach towards the legs. Let's hold and breathe. Sometimes I flex my feet because I get a little cramp in that foot, so it just needs a little stretch. Now slowly lower the legs back onto the mat before stretching back over that ball. Let's try it again. Once you're up, bend your knees to tabletop, grab behind the thighs. We're going to do a really small version of rolling like a ball. Draw your lower abs in so much that your pelvis starts to roll back. Once your back touches the ball, think of pushing your legs into your hands. Draw your abs in even deeper as you curl back up and find your balance. And if this is working well for you, try the more challenging option with your legs straight. If you get a really intense shaking sensation in your legs with this version, it's better to keep those knees a little bit bent. And also check in with your neck here. A lot of us tend to really hike those shoulders up to your ears, so you want to slide the shoulders away from the ears. Find a nice relaxed position there. Try that a few times, and then set your legs down. Reach the arms up and over, folding forward towards your thighs. Rolling back up. All right, it's time to work your other side, just like we did earlier. So we want to find that position where the ball is somewhere around the middle of your waist. It should not be painful, so you want to adjust as needed up a little bit or down a little bit until it's not hurting. Bottom knee bent. And we start to lift and lower that top leg. So optional to add the ankle movement. If it's kind of distracting your brain, leave it out for today. Just choose either to flex your foot or point your foot the whole time. And I've got my hand on the side of my hip. That is right where we want to be feeling this. That's your gluteus medius and minimus, side of the pelvis. And then drawing those really small circles. They should be small enough that your torso is not moving at all. Low abs will help you stabilize. So again, thinking pelvic floor activating and that sensation of tightening a belt around your waist every time you breathe out. One release, lower the leg, top arm reaches overhead. And then lift that leg up to hip height. Kick forward about 45 degrees and then lower and lift that leg. This will really focus on your piriformis muscle. It's one of those deep hip rotators and we want it to be strong Sometimes it feels tight because it's weak, so we want to be sure it stays strong. And then bringing that leg in line with your body again. I'm going to move the ball up a little bit to get into these obliques. So optional to cross both hands in front of your chest. Think of pressing the bottom side of your ribs into the ball as the top side of your ribs curl towards your hip bone. A little bit more challenging to take the top arm overhead. We did that on the first side. Or even both arms overhead is going to add a lot of load for those obliques. Do your best to keep your hip bones stacked right on top of each other. And let's finish with some little pulses. Optional to lift the top leg up for even more challenge. And remember, these are small. It feels so tiny to me when I do these. Now turning your shoulders towards your top leg as much as you can. Reach towards your toes as you curl up an inch and down an inch. And remember, if your neck is really tired at this point, take your hand behind your head for support. That does actually add challenge for your abdominals, but it supports your neck. And we made it. Let's take a stretch. Turn back to the side, relax down to the mat. Stretch your leg and your arms away from each other. All right, let's get ready for that rotated position. So finding the ball kind of right in the center of your sternum. Hands outside your shoulders. Start to lift through the top of the head. Open the chest, draw your abdominals in. And this first set, you're just lifting up to about the bottom of the rib cage, so it's small. Just kind of getting a feel for it, seeing if your back is going to tolerate it today. Bottom knee is bent, top leg is straight. And even here you're thinking one bone at a time, from the very top of your neck down to about the middle of your back. Now let's work your legs, so kind of coming up so that you're on your elbows, chest lifted. Lift that top leg up and lower it back down. Now, if this ever hurts your back, check in with your abdominals. Are they still active? If the answer is yes, you might be lifting your leg a little too high. You can also try lowering your chest down a little bit closer to the floor. To help with that, widen your arms and maybe even angle your elbows slightly sideways. Let's pulse out that leg. Little pulses. Focusing right where that little booty crease is. Once you've done about 8, lower your chest down, straighten out that bottom leg so your legs are making a nice V. Definitely lower your chest towards the mat on this one a little bit and try to lift both legs up and both legs down. This time you have a lot better view of that bottom leg. It's really tiny. It just lifts up a few inches. All right, then bending that bottom leg, we're going to go into our full swan. So trying to straighten your elbows all the way if you can, but really listen to your body here. You might gradually get a little bit higher with each repetition as your body kind of warms up. Know that this is a really challenging position. You're in both rotation and spinal extension, which is really one of the most difficult positions. So it doesn't agree with everybody's body. Definitely respect that if your body is kind of not enjoying it for the day. Keep it really small. You might even go into a standard swan with just everything facing the mat. Let's go for that kind of swan dive. So the top leg is going to lift to initiate your rock forward. Allow your elbows to bend while keeping your chest lifted. And then everything returns to where it started. So you're trying to maintain the same shape in your body the entire time. Just the arms are changing. That ball is giving you a little bit of support here. It should feel nice. It's also a reference to try to keep your body away from it as much as possible. right, let's return to the side. Get ready for those tricep push-ups. So bottom arm is wrapped around your waist, top arm is placed on the mat in front of you. And then really press that top hand into the mat to lift up, straightening your elbow as much as you can. You might notice I'm twisting a little bit. That's just because at some point your arm kind of gets in the way of your chest. And so to really straighten your elbow, you might have to twist just a tiny bit. All right, let's take that big side stretch. Bend both knees. Come all the way up. Reach towards your top leg. Grab that top leg and then rotate towards it. Both hands on the mat if possible. And then just kind of releasing through that extension and flexion of the spine by lifting your chest and your eyes, and then scooping those low abs to round again. Squaring off to the side wall, place that opposite hand on the ball, and take a side bend the other way, rolling the ball away from you. Check in that your arm is always in line with your shoulder or slightly in front of it. You want to avoid allowing it to creep behind your body. And remember, as you come back up, you're really pressing into the ball. It will help you out. All right, we made it. Let's take a release here in a child's pose, both hands on top of the ball. Sitting your hips back towards your heels. Press into the ball and think of pulling it towards you as you draw your abdominals off your thighs. Look towards your belly button. You're rounding through that upper back like you want to puff your ribs up to the ceiling. And then just lengthening back out, chest towards your knees. Do that a few times. And then we'll meet with your shoulders over your wrists, hands are still on the ball. Let's try a cat-cow. So this can be really strange feeling the first time you use the ball in this way. It's really unstable. Notice that my knuckles are a lot lower than my wrists, but my hands are quite close together. Then I'm really tucking my tailbone, scooping my abdominals up to the sky, looking at my thighs. Hold that for a deep breath in. And then going into that cow, reach the tailbone away from the top of the head. Abdominals still lifted up to support you. Should feel really nice. Really activates the stabilizers of the arms. All right, let's come up onto the knees. Reaching those arms out in front of you at about eye height, holding your ball. We're going to hinge back from the knee. Close the front of the ribs, engage the glutes, think pubic bone forward. You're trying to maintain a pretty straight line from the top of your head to your kneecap. This is a little more challenging with your legs closer together. If that hurts your back or your knees, try spreading your knees a little further apart. It's also okay to do more like an external rotation where your feet are together and your knees are apart. All right, after about 6 to 8 reps, we're going to lean back and hold. Little pelvic tilts. Engage your glutes even more to press your pubic bone forward. Feel those low abs draw in. And then a little release, not a complete release. Might start to get a real intense burning in your thighs. You're holding this position, so it's a lot of endurance. We're going to kind of go into a kneeling cat situation here. So lean back and hold. Bring that ball into your chest. Start to roll it down the front of your body. You're looking towards the ball until it meets the mat, and then press it out in front of you. Find that cow position. And then roll the ball back and lean back, and you're going to roll all the way back up. Arms lift up. Let's try it again. So we lean back from the knee, chin to chest, roll all the way down until the ball finds the mat. Roll the ball out in front of you. Your body weight's going to shift forward as you lift your chest and your eyes. And then draw your abdominals in so much that you roll back into that cat position. Come all the way up to kneeling, arms lift up. Now let's try that without putting the ball on the mat. So we lean back, Lower your arms, draw your abs in so much that you round through the back. Lower your arms, keep that ball off the mat, reach it out in front of you, tailbone back, eyes and chest lift up as you lift your arms, and then tuck your tailbone, scoop your abs in, and roll all the way up. Once you're there, both arms overhead, one hand grabs the ball, reach it back towards your same foot. So now we're doing, again, a little bit of that rotation and extension that we did earlier. You're still adding that hinge back. And once you're even on both sides, let's set that ball right in between your ankles. Let's try a little upper back extension here. Bending the elbows, bring the ball to your chest. Think of diving backwards. Focus on lifting your sternum up towards the sky. And notice that I keep a lot of space from the back of my head to the back of my neck. That's correct. We want to keep a really long back of the neck. Gravity is going to be tempting you to drop your head all the way back. But we're learning how to control how far back your head goes. All right, now let's hinge forward. You're kind of in a squat kneeling, so a little bit of space from your butt to your heels, arms reaching up. And then open your arms to the side, taking that ball again in one hand and then the other hand. Take that a few times on each side and then hold with both arms out to the side. And we're going to twist, reaching the ball up towards the sky, and then return so that you're squared off to the mat. Do that a few times in one direction. And then arms overhead, switch that ball into the other hand. Open your arms like the letter T. And then think of your rib cage spiraling around your spine as you turn as far as you can towards that side wall. Again, arms overhead. Reach all the way up to vertical, head right over knees. And then we've got another side bend. So again, the ball is in one hand. Reach that ball down to the mat as you side bend up and over. Let's speed that up a little bit. Should help you feel your oblique abdominals again. We did that side bending earlier with the ball behind our shoulder blades. This time, really slow it down. See if you can grow a little bit taller, feeling a little bit more space through the low back and every bone in your spine. Now let's try that circular pattern we did with the ball behind your shoulder blades. Take the ball behind your head this time. Let your head be supported in the ball. Side bend. Curl forward towards your thighs. Side bend the other way, and then dive backwards. Do that one in each direction. And if you're not loving the ball behind your head, another option is to hold it in front of your chest. Same movement. Think all of this is from the waist up. Now for even more challenge, try this with long arms. So you reach the ball down to the floor, out in front of you, switch hands down to the floor, and then right back in front of your chest. So just some options for coordination, different arm positions. Once you're even on both sides, find that child's pose. Reach the ball out in front of you, and then over to one side. Hips reach in the opposite direction, and over to the other side. Meet back in the middle, take a few breaths, and then roll that ball toward your knees. Come up to seated on your heels. All right, let's place that ball in between your knees. Come onto your hands and knees, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Toes are tucked under so that you can hover your knees off the mat. hold for a big breath in, and then with as much control as possible, set your knees back down. All right, just some reminders. We're lifting our ribs up into our shoulder blades the whole time so that we're working against gravity. Head is also resisting gravity, so staying lifted into the center of the chest. Now lift those knees up and hold, and give that ball little squeezes, feeling your inner thighs activate. Squeeze that ball about 8 times and then softly set your knees down. Let's do that again. Knees lift up, squeeze that ball, check in with your elbows. If they're locked out, try to soften them. Think of spiraling your biceps forward, your triceps backward. And again, after about 6 to 8 squeezes, softly set those knees down. Now walk your hands a little further forward. Lean forward, shoulders over wrists. And let's lift both knees up, straighten your legs out. You're in a plank. And again, with control, softly set your knees down. Think of stretching your heels away from the top of your head, drawing your lower abdominals in. Do that about 4 times and then take a downward dog. Pike your hips. Now bend your knees from that downward dog, lower them as much as you can, and then straighten them back out. After about 5 of those, walk your hands back towards your feet, soften your knees if you need to, and just adjust the ball so it's now in between your ankles. Slowly roll all the way up to standing. Once you're there, arms reach overhead. Take your hands behind your head. Let's do that circular pattern we did before. Side bend. Rib to top of the head curls forward. Side bend the other way. And then think of diving backward. Couple times in each direction. Curl the chin to the chest. Roll all the way down and walk your hands out till you're in a plank. Now the leg pattern we did earlier. Lift one leg off the mat, squeeze the ball, and try to lift your leg directly over your other leg. One on each side. Downward dog, walk your hands back to your feet. You can always bend your knees if you're feeling a little tight today, and roll all the way up to standing. Finding your balance, both heels lift, and they slowly lower down. Arms reach up to the sky. Side bend. One way and then the other way. Chin towards the chest. Side bend. Dive backwards and side bend. Try it the other way. And if your neck needs support, remember hands can always go behind the head. Once you're even on both sides, roll back down to the mat, walk back out to your plank. Start with the opposite leg. Squeeze that ball as you lift your leg up. Try to stack one ankle on top of the other. See if you can isolate that movement from the knee or the thigh down rather than moving anything through the torso. And we're going to find a squat. So grab that ball. Stand all the way up. Elbows bent. Squeeze the ball in front of your chest and then squat down. Reach that ball out in front of your chest. The more you squeeze the ball, the more you're going to feel your arms and your shoulders. The further out from your chest you reach it, the more you're going to challenge your glutes and your back. So remember, if it ever bothers your back, you want to keep it closer to your chest. Now hold that squat down. Arms are straight out in front of you, just like that steering wheel movement. One hand right on top of the other. And then switch and try it a little bit faster now. As much weight in your heels as possible. Abs drawing in to support your back. And once you're even on both sides, meet in the middle and pulse your hips down an inch, up an inch. A little bit of endurance for those legs and hips. Standing all the way up, ball in front of the chest, elbows bent. Lift one leg up to tabletop, find your balance on the other leg. And then come back to a squat. Stand all the way up before you lift the other leg to tabletop. And then come back to that squat. So now we've got our entire body working together. We're thinking inner thighs, side glutes. They're going to help you balance. Embrace the wobble. For a little more challenge, try keeping your arms straight, further away from your chest. Balance is always really challenging for me. Some days it's better than others for sure. Once you're even on both sides, let's find a lunge. So step one leg really far forward, front knee bent, back leg straight, and just keep that ball right in front of your chest. Now lean forward and start to reach that ball out and in. You've got a great view of your knee and ankle alignment here. Remember, kneecap is right over your second and third toe. Try to stack your knee directly over your ankle, and your shoulders and hips are squared off to the wall right in front of you. Now, keeping the ball close to your chest, we're going to stand all the way up and lean backwards like we did on your knees. So now your back knee is bent, your front leg is straight, and let's do that same arm reach. The tendency here is to kind of arch your low back. So you're actually tucking your tailbone a little bit, just enough that your pubic bone is further forward than your hip bones. Enormous stretch on the front of that back thigh. It might start to burn or even shake a little bit. Now straighten both legs again. Find your torso right in the middle of those legs and try bending both knees down and up. Optional to add in some arms, reaching that ball up to the sky as you bend both knees, and then bring it back to your chest as you straighten both knees. For even more challenge, you could always lift your front heel. All right, here's our combination. Once you bend both knees, you're going to lean forward. Your back leg straightens. Then bend both knees through the middle. Your torso is vertical, and lean back. Front leg straightens. Lean forward. Both knees bent. Lean back. Optional to add those arms, reaching out in front of you and then up to the sky. Now it's a little less challenging if you straighten both legs in between as you make your transition. More challenging if you bend both knees through that transition. Let's finish with some pulses. Both knees bend, hips down an inch, up an inch, and maybe you lift that front heel for extra challenge. You might even reach your arms up to the sky for that extra challenge. Let's try to balance on one leg. Push off your back leg, stand all the way up to tabletop like we did before. Embrace that wobble and then set both feet down, roll down to the mat. Let's take a quick stretch before we do the other side. So bend one knee, reach the opposite arm up to the sky, and then do the other side, and we'll roll all the way up to standing. So other leg reaches back. You want it to be enough that your front knee can bend and stay stacked on top of your ankle. Square off those shoulders and hips and start to reach that ball out and bend your elbows to bring it back to your chest. Now, as we get tired, we tend to arch the low back, flare open the front of the ribs. So think about all of that we've set up earlier. Ribs are closed in the front, abs are in. Now both legs straighten, and then bend the back knee, lean back and hold. Arms reach up to the sky. A little bit less challenging if they're lower, so think more like chest height. And again, you're kind of tucking your tailbone forward enough that you're really feeling those low abs and a big stretch on the front of the back thigh. Let's do down and up right in the center here. So both knees bent and both knees straighten. Torso is vertical, optional to reach those arms up to the sky and then back to the chest. You could always lift the front heel for more challenge. Let's go into our combo. So both knees bend, then we lean forward. The back leg will straighten. Both knees bend. Front leg straightens as you lean back. Optional to add those arms, reaching forward as you lean forward. Arms reach straight up as you lean back. A lot of balance here. Meeting back in the middle, pulse it out to finish, hips down an inch, up an inch. Optional to lift that front heel for more challenge, and even harder to lift the arms up. This side I have a lot better balance. Push off the back leg, balance on that front leg, and then set it down. Take that stretch again. Opposite knee bends, twisting up to the sky. Meet back in the middle. Hands on either side of the ball on the mat. Walk your feet back so you're in a plank. And try to tap that ball, alternating hands. Now this is going to be easier if your legs are much wider apart, a little more challenging if your legs are really close together. Your goal is to avoid shifting side to side as much as you can. So you can see that I'm obviously shifting side to side a little bit. If you widen your legs, it'll be a lot more steady. Once you're even on both sides, downward dog, pike those hips, stretch back, and then coming into your child's pose, knees bend, sit your hips back, enjoy some deep breaths. Allow your jaw to unclench, your neck to unlock, your shoulders to relax. And then sitting on your heels, just roll all the way up to seated. All right, it is time for some nice release moments. Rolling onto your side, bottom arm is supporting your head, top arm is reaching straight out in front of you. Rest that ball under your hand. Press gently into the ball and start to twist from the top of your head to the low back, rotating the front of your body towards the floor. See if you can reverse it as you rotate back. So think almost of your belly button rotating backwards first, the bottom of the rib, then the shoulder, then the neck, then the head. We're going to try to go the opposite way. Grab that ball in your hand. The bottom arm now reaches straight out in front of you. Reach the ball up to the sky. And then open your chest towards the sky. Turn your head to look at the ball. For a little more stretch, top leg is going to straighten out in front of you. Maybe hold that for a couple breaths if it's feeling good. When you're ready, sit all the way up in the center. Ball in between the legs. Gently just roll that ball out in front of you as you curl forward towards the mat. See if you can still use your abdominals here to support you rather than just collapsing forward towards your legs. And then rolling back up to seated. Once you've done that a couple times, let's do the other side. So start with the ball under your hand, right out in front of your chest, knees are bent. Press into the ball, start to turn your face towards the floor, then your throat, your shoulder, your ribs. And I'm showing you can also do this with the bottom arm straight, so whichever feels better for you. Bottom arm bent or straight is okay. And as you roll back, think bottom rib leading the way, then through the sternum, the shoulders, the throat, and then the head. That sequence will help release through your spine and your back. Now let's try the opposite. Top arm grabs the ball, bottom arm is reaching out in front of you. Reach up to the sky first. Your head gets even heavier as you start to look towards the ceiling. Opening your chest, but closing the front of the ribs. And then use your abdominals to help you bring it all the way back to where you started.